the difficult process of patching the torn-up nation had begun. While the American Civil War solved some problems that had plagued the United States since its beginning, it created a slew of new ones as well. What would the reconstructed nation be like? What would become of the freedmen as they got their first taste of liberty? While enslaved, these 4 million Americans had been kept ignorant and dependent. What would it take for them to gain their rightful place as citizens of the United States? What would the political relationship between the federal government and the states look like now? Who would solve these great questions? Reconstruction had begun while the fighting was still raging. Clusters of self-emancipated refugees flocked to Union lines from the very beginning of the war. There was no national policy as to the status of these formerly enslaved people. At first, they were treated as war plunder, termed contraband. They were classified as property, same as anything that was forbidden to be traded with the enemy. This included everything from cannon to cattle. During this uncertain time, U.S. troops often returned these formerly enslaved people to their owners, who resumed their enslavement. As the war progressed, especially in Louisiana, this policy evolved. U.S. authorities there used the stream of newly freed laborers and families flooding into New Orleans on public maintenance and construction projects. Then, Union officers took the unprecedented step of enlisting the former enslaved into the Army. At first, this was a localized event and caused some concern in Congress. National policy quickly caught up with the situation on the ground in Louisiana. Laws calling for the enlistment of able-bodied men into their state militias was used to justify the recruitment and conscription of African Americans into the Army. The last piece of political scaffolding came from the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, all African Americans in the unoccupied part of the Confederacy were free. When U.S. forces took more Southern territory, the African American men there were liable for military service and turned against their former owners. President Abraham Lincoln called for a force of 100,000 African American soldiers to be raised from the lower Mississippi Valley alone. Eventually, twice that number would serve across the nation. In 1863, the focus of the war shifted from suppressing a Southern rebellion to destroying the institution of slavery, the proximate cause for the war forever. African American men armed and equipped to achieve their own freedom would never again submit to enslavement. The passage of the 13th Amendment in early 1865 and its ratification later that year ended slavery as a feature of American life. On June 19, 1865, an important and definitive act played out at Galveston. U.S. forces occupying that Texas city announced the liberation of enslaved people across the state. This mundane announcement came as news to many African Americans, especially on remote farms and plantations. They celebrated it as a second American Independence Day and called it Juneteenth. While African Americans celebrated freedom, many former Confederates returned to find their homes and cities destroyed, their farms wrecked, and their family dead or scattered. 1 out of 2 who served were dead or wounded, and the federal government had militarized the formerly enslaved population as tools of war, too. Now, victor and vanquished regrouped for the next fight. Slavery might be dead, but the lingering social upheaval was only just beginning.